Good afternoon or good morning, everybody, depending on where you are. I want to thank you guys for taking time out of your day to join us for our Made to Manage Tips and Tricks user group today. If you guys have any questions throughout the event, you can throw them down into the question box, or at the very end of our day when we have our Q&A session, if you would like to come off of your mic and ask our consultants personally any questions, if you click your little hand button, I can unmute you and you can ask your questions. If you have any afterwards, I have our contact information here up on the screen. Today we have Jim Castellano, our president and owner, myself, Jessica Canellis. We have Gary Cerny for Intuitive, and then as you all know, we have James Cooey for Made to Manage. We also have Jim McCormick for Acumatica HR Payroll Time and Attendance, and then we have Brendan James for M-Files, our document management. I'm going to go ahead and give it over to Jim Castellano so he can do a quick little intro, show you our agenda, and then we can kickstart with all of our sessions today.
Thank you, Jessica. I'll let her pass it over to me. See that? There we go. And give me 1 second. Okay. Can everyone see me? My screen?
Yes.
All right, perfect. Well, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Hey, thank you so much for being a PeopleSense customer or a prospect that we have out here today. I wanted to thank everybody for coming on to our user group today. Today is our Made to Manage user group. Yesterday we had our Intuitive user group. Had a great showing with many customers. Today we have lined up probably, I saw on the list over 40 different people lined up on the schedule today. So that is fantastic. So Jessica and the team, I have to thank them for doing such a great job of putting it together. So let me get here. So I'll give you a little bit of the history. So I founded PeopleSense. I started PeopleSense in 2003 out of the Chicago area. We have core products. Our core products that we work with are ERP, Acumatica ERP, we'll talk about that later, time and attendance, and document management. So for all of you, we have customers in 42 states that we know of so far, and have customers in Canada, and we have customers in Europe. So we're able to help with all of their needs, anything and everything that you have or had with AppTeam. We're able to do that, I just think, at a faster pace and being able to help our customers. We have over 20 consultants nationwide and worldwide. Some of our consultants live over, are semi-retired that live also over in Europe, which is great. We have over 250 years of combined experience throughout our consulting practice that we have here with all our consultants, so I have to thank all of them. Let me give you a little bit right here. This is our team that's on with us today. So a lot of them are here that have joined us. As you can see, we have Gary Cerny. He's our director of ERP on the Intuitive side. But we have Jim Cooey. Jim Cooey will be your account manager if you need any help there. We have Steve Murtha, Ken Van Severn, who's on today, Glenn Toby, Connie, Doug Roth, Ray Frieberhauser, who will be on with us also, Hans Haupt. Susan will be joining us if she is here, and Christine Chun. So I also can't just thank them. I have to thank a lot of our other team that helps us. And we have our team that works so additional products. So Jim McCormick is here. Jim McCormick works with our Acumatica ERP. Acumatica is a different ERP system that we do sell and we implement and we consult on. We cannot personally sell the Intuitive or the Made to Manage. They got rid of all their business partners years ago, so they sell it just in-house directly. We also have Brendan James with us. He works with our M-Files. Our M-Files is our document management software with workflow. So if any of you have questions about that, we'll talk about that later today too. Jessica Canellis, that's Jess. She's the one who puts all this together. So I have to thank Jess for putting the whole webinar together, having all the emails sent out. By giving her credit, I also have to give Sam Melgosa credit. Sam is helped put a lot of this, all the emails that all of you have received, and I have gotten, so as Joseph out there. And we also have Deep works with our team also on the M-File side and the Acumatica side. So at this point, this is a whole bunch of our third-party partners that we work with. So we're just going to mention them just for a couple seconds to have that. And I'm going to send that over to your account manager, Jim Cooey. So Jim?
Yep, thanks, Jim. Hi, everyone. For those of you that know me, and maybe some of you that don't, like Jim said, my name is Jimmy Cooey. And I'm just going to kind of go over some of your different third parties that we allow and support. So Avalara is a tax compliance. You can automate your sales tax calculation, reporting, and filings through our connector that we actually built. MindSight is the ability to host Made to Manage in the cloud and still own your data. Unlike the 8.0 version of Made to Manage, you could host 751 and still own all your data. PartTrap is kind of e-commerce for your website. This can help actually revamp your website. That gives consumers a way to easily customize their order and grab specific parts from your website and order them. Nuvi is credit card processing. This allows your customers to use credit cards if they can't now. And what Nuvi can also do is, if you already have credit card processing, they could either beat that rate that you get from your current processor, or they can at the very least, match it. We also support Vertance Navigator. That's created by Steve Murtha, one of our consultants. It provides quick drill down and powerful data analysis capabilities for everyone in your company. Mobile Manage is one of our more newer partners that we started with last year. That's Ken Roy's product. They have a very easy to use data collection for the use on the shop floor. It allows barcoding through tablets and scanners, and it actually doesn't consume any Made to Manage licenses. So if you're hitting that Made to Manage license cap, Mobile Manage can help alleviate some of those and have people on your shop floor using it. Likewise, we have Portis, which is our data analytical tool that comes with built-in dashboards and ready-to-use reports. Like Mobile Manage, it doesn't consume Made to Manage licenses, and it's more for your financial people and your people in the top level, whereas Mobile Manage is more for your people on the shop floor. Portis also lets you run their system on yours for 1 month for free. So you can use your data on all their reports and dashboards and see how you like it. Another one of our partners on the right side is Knowledge Sync. That is basically to combine alerts and automations to help companies monitor critical, time-sensitive manufacturing activities. So kind of like Portis, we have Power BI. We have a consultant that can work with you on that. It's basically Microsoft's business analytics tool. It's kind of similar to Advanced Report Writer, where you have to create all the reports and dashboards yourself, whereas Portis already has that built in for you. We also offer, barcoding on Mobile Manage and another one of our partners. We also have EDI through Acclimate. This helps connect your business with customers and suppliers. It essentially translates the data into formats that are compatible with your system and whoever your partner or customer is. It gives you a easily translatable document for both. Like Jim said earlier, we also have M-Files. That's a document storage management system with built-in workflow. And one of my favorite things is it allows you to make your documents searchable. So it has all your documents in there, and you can search up keywords and metadata and find thousands of different documents. If you were looking up, say, a customer's name, they would show up all the documents that you have with that customer's name, and so on and so forth. One of our newest partners is PrintBoss, and that's basically a way to send out emails and documents through Made to Manage. We find it as more of a reliable way to email documents outside of Made to Manage, because you know where they're going and if they didn't send, whereas the Made to Manage one kind of doesn't help with that. We also have fixed assets, which includes capital planning, acquisition, CIP, and transfer and disposal. And then last, we have HR and payroll, which is one of our other divisions at PeopleSense, and we have numerous different solutions to help you deal with HR and payroll. So yeah, thanks everyone, and I'll kind of just pass it back to Jim then.
Hey, thanks, Jimmy. One of the things that Jimmy did mention was Power BI, and I forgot to put on our slide here. I had it on the slide yesterday. We also help with the advanced report writer. So anyone who is on here who wants advanced report writing to be done also, we can do that also. So I just want to let everybody know about that. So, and thank you again, Jimmy. So let me take over the control. And so here, this is what we have planned for today. So for right now, we're still doing our introductions and going over the staff and thanking everybody. And then we will start with Ken. Ken will go from his 11:15 till like 11:35 or so. As you can see here with data management, the upgrades and service packs information. Thanks, Ken, on that. And then we have Ray Frieberhauser will be doing tips and tricks. And then Susan will be helping with customizations and tariffs. And then after that, we will have questions and answers. One of the things I did want to say, well, first, let me finish off my thought processes. So we have Jim Cooey's contact information here, so you guys will see that. If you don't have that, please write that down. Jimmy, as I said yesterday with Gary, Jimmy likes when you guys call him at like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning on his cell. He says, please do that, just so everybody has that. And then Jessica, we have Jessica's information. She did not put her cell number down because she said, I do not want them calling me at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. And then we put down our support, email support is right down there at the bottom, the Made to Manage support at PeopleSense ERP. So if you have to put a work ticket, I will go over that at the end. So I do have a couple of things I was going to go up to, and that's some of our house items I have to take care of. So we're going to go over later with our website. We're going to do that. We talked about our third parties. We're going to talk about Acumatica as a third party, giving you guys other options. I'm talking about that for people who want to move off. And then, excuse me. And then we're going to talk about any questions that you have. So please raise your hand. One of the things is we need to get better at this. We try to do 1, 2 times a year. And with doing that, we need help from you. We need the customers to give us their ideas, what you would want to see, excuse me, on our webinars. So I have to thank all of our team because we put this together at least 3, 4 months out and then try to work around everyone's schedules and trying to do this for everyone. So if you have some ideas, please even put them on. You can even put it as a work ticket saying, hey, or put it out there to Jess, call Jimmy, saying, hey, you guys should do this or this. Or this is what I'd like to see. Then we would be able to work that into our schedule for our webinar. So again, I want to thank everybody who is on here. One of the things I also always do is I always want to thank App Team because we wouldn't be where we are today if it wasn't for them with all of our customers. We currently have over 280 Made to Manage customers. So we have to thank them. And I have to thank my staff. My staff has done a great job of putting all this together and with all their PowerPoints, with everything else. So I can't thank them enough. And Jess, can't thank you and Sam enough for all, and Joseph with all the phone calls you've had to do and all the emails you've had to send out. So thank you guys so much. So then I will pass it back to Jess. Jess, thank you so much. And thank you, everybody.
Yes. We are going to dive into our first session. So Ken, if you are ready, I will switch it over to you.
Okay, I am ready.
And real quick, I forgot to mention, sorry, Ken, if you guys do have any questions, people who have come on late, if you have any questions down in the chat, Jess has said multiple times, you can just type your question down there and then Jess could go back to Ken out loud. And then at the end, we will open that up for any of you who want to just talk like we can do now. So thank you again. All yours, Ken. Sorry about that.
Okay, is my presentation up?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
perfect. Okay, so today we're going to talk about data management and service packs. Service packs / upgrades. Upgrades will be included in there as well. And of course, it's presented by me, Ken Van Severen. I've been working with the Made to Manage product since, gosh, 1998, both as a customer and employee, and now with Jim, of course. So We're going to talk about backups. The first thing I want to discuss is the backups and how crucial they are for disaster recovery and your data protection, what your best practices are in the backups and the cleanup task. Then we're going to talk about the optimization utilities for made to manage, and the big one being M2M DB utility. And then also I'm going to touch briefly on managing your log files. Anybody who's looked at their SQL Server has probably noticed that log files can be a little unruly. They continue to grow. And I'm going to discuss how you can shrink those down without shrinking the database. Emphasize not to shrink your database unless it's absolutely necessary. I've run into some places where they have shrink task running every night. And one of the problems you run into when you shrink a database is it will it'll fragment the database when it relocates the pieces inside of it, thereby reducing your performance. There's a couple steps you can do after shrinking the database to restore that performance somewhat, but I don't recommend doing it. If for some reason you've had a large amount of data moved out for like archiving or something of that sort, it can reduce the amount of data that's inside your database. But I don't recommend shrinking it unless you have to. Even though it's removed the records from the database, it has an idea of where that is inside the database. It'll make it easier to find. There will be a bunch of empty space inside your database, but all that means is it'll continue adding to it until it gets to the limit, and then it'll increase the size of your database again. Most SQL databases are set up for incremental size growth as you exceed them. So if you have a quarter of your database that's empty, it doesn't hurt anything. It just won't incrementally grow the size of it anymore. So we'll start with backups. I recommend full backups and transaction log backups for your databases. The main one that you really need to worry about are your live companies. You want to get them set up with a full backup every night, and then you want to do transaction logs every hour during the day. And the reason for the transaction logs are, say at 10 after 3 in the afternoon, you run a cost roll up, or somebody runs a utility on your data, somebody did something and it just caused your data to get to reflect something you didn't want it to reflect. If they go in and accidentally delete your content, something like that, you can restore that information back to 3 p.m. versus going back to the night before. And as a user, I would much rather not have to type in everything I did all day for a restore situation versus typing in what I did in the last 10 minutes. So I recommend having the full backup and transaction log backups. A lot of people have them on VMs now. They still take the picture of the VM. I still recommend having the full backups and transaction logs, because sometimes you don't necessarily have to restore the image of the virtual machine versus getting just a certain amount of data that you want out of your backups. I recommend that you keep 3 days of those backups stored locally on the machine or on a drive that you can access from the machine. Primarily, your ideal situation would be to have them on an external drive that you can access. But when you're doing your nightly system backups, you can also store those out onto an external place and then keep as long as you feel comfortable with. Standard rule of thumb for IT for years was 30 days. You keep 30 days of backups off-site so that if for some reason you had to roll back 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever, you could get back to that. And of course, the external backup should be, by external, it doesn't mean you necessarily have to carry it home, but you could put it on the cloud. I wouldn't recommend putting it on a drive or a machine in your server room if you have physical servers, because if for some reason a fire or something were to hit the system, or you had an electrical surge that killed all the machines, there goes your backup. You want to make sure that that backup is stored somewhere off-site, or not so much off-site, off server, so that you can get to it in case you lose the server. The reasons for the backup, of course, are the data loss or corruption from a minor event, or if you have to rebuild the server from a major event. That's why the recommendation is usually to keep at least 30 days, because if you get hit with ransomware or malware, you're going to have to go back to a point in time where you didn't have that issue. And that the IT groups get involved in that as far as determining, okay, at what point were we safe from infection? Then you can rebuild it. You take your current backups and you can restore your data back to where you were. It's the most important piece of your disaster recovery plan. You can have all these great ideas on getting your server back, but if you don't have your data, you're pretty much shot yourself in the foot. So you want to make sure that you have proper types of backups being run. The simple recovery on the database automatically removes the transaction logs, but it only does full or differential backups. It will not do the hourly transactions. And you can only restore to that last full or differential backup point. With a full recovery model, which is what I recommend for your live database or your production database, is it backs up the transaction logs every hour and it gives you a point in time recovery to where you can specify, I want to go back to 3 o'clock p.m. or, I want to tell it where I want to recover to. Then that usually comes if somebody did an action that accidentally deleted something. And you'll run, and I'll discuss some of the options where you could run into that when we get to the M2M DB utility discussion. Some people have gone in M2M or DB utility and reset all their reports back to standard. Well, at that point, you want to restore your database to get those back. Where to store your backup files, that can be on the server itself or another machine on the network. I recommend having it, having a copy of it somewhere on another machine as well. Typically recommend keeping them 3 days of backups, and then of course your transaction logs for a full recovery model. These are all handled in your maintenance plans. If you're unsure if your maintenance plans look correct or that they're running correctly and that they're optimized to suit your needs, you can reach out to us. We can take a look at it and make sure that they're set up. And if they aren't, get them set up for you. Always ensure that you have a copy off-site. And by off-site, once again, I mentioned you can have it, you can have somebody take it home or you just put it out in the cloud somewhere so that if for some reason something catastrophic happened in the building, you have a copy of that data somewhere. And of course, knowing the location of these in the event they are needed. There's been instances where people put them out somewhere and then they can't remember how to access it. You should always check to make sure that you can access your backups and that your backups are actually working. There's no worse time to realize that your backups aren't working until the point that you actually need those backups. That's when you have that panic mode hit. Now, one of the biggest utilities you can use for data optimization inside of Made to Manage is the M2M DB utility. The location of that utility is in your data folder on the server in a subfolder called loading, and then there's another subfolder underneath that called M2M DB utility. Inside that folder, you will see the application, you'll see any log files from the previous times it's run, and you'll also see documentation. I would recommend that if you're using M2M DB utility, you take time to read that documentation so you understand what each of the steps do. As you can see in the picture, there's several options here that you can run. Most of the time, all you'll ever need to run is the top two, and we'll discuss those here briefly. The M2M DB connections is used to reconfigure your M2M databases. Most people just go in there and take the defaults and then refresh the views at the end. That's typically what you'll use it for. It'll recreate the views and it'll refresh the views and go out and update the M2M DB version table to make sure that the database is in sync with the version you're running. Now, what will happen is if you're creating a test company, for example, you would go into here and you would change, or you would run that after you create a test company and restore it. Once after you restore, you go and run this. It makes sure that the views are up to date and that everything's in sync. If you're creating a test environment, you can use this particular portion of the utility, the DB connections, to go in and change the path to where your data resides, change the connection information to that data, and then it'll refresh all the views that go with it. The reason you want to do that is if you create a test environment and restore your M2M system the way that it is now, and you don't go in and reset your pointers and reset your connection information, when people go in, they'll be pointing to your live database. Even though you put it in the test environment, all the testing they do will be written on the live. You want to go in and make sure that you update that connection information so that you're looking at your local copy. And we can help you with that and show you how to use that, and then also how to test it to ensure that the data you're writing is not going to your production data. M2M DB maintenance is used to perform the M2M database maintenance task, but can't remember if I have a slide on that or not. No, I do not. So what that does is it goes in there, it allows you to re-index your files, it'll update the statistics. I don't recommend updating statistics more than you need to, because that'll affect performance as well. But the indexing of the files, you typically, if you have somebody who wants to schedule it as a job inside Made to Manage, I would recommend running that every 30 days. I do not recommend setting up a shrink task because, like I said, shrinking's bad. Some people shrink it every night, and it's going to affect your performance over time. So don't be shrinking the database if you don't need to. The third option on that screen is to restore missing or modified standard stored procedures and functions. This is if for some reason somebody went in and accidentally deleted a stored procedure or a function in your SQL database, or if somebody has modified a standard stored procedure or function, which is typically a no-no. You want to avoid that. But if they gone in and modified it and now it's not performing properly, you can go in there and it'll restore everything back to factory default for those stored procedures and functions. The rectification utility, you can use that to check for blocked processes. It'll verify and correct the map drives to universal name convention versus using mappings. A lot of places have it mapped to like the M drive. You can, instead of using the server name and the name of the directory to where to find the data, you can run this to get that, and it'll also clear the fired notification records from Notifier. I don't know of anybody who actually runs the rectification utility. It's not necessary, but it's good for troubleshooting certain items. And then, of course, the report reset tool. But the only time I've ever seen anybody use this is when you're doing a test system to do an upgrade, and you have a ton of custom reports, but nobody's sure what those custom reports do or if you actually need them anymore. So the recommendation at that point is when you create your test server and you've restored everything that's been upgraded into that test server, you can go in and do the report reset tool, and it'll return all your customizations for reports back to the default. And then once you're on default, you can run the default documents to see if those will serve your needs or if you actually do need them customized. That's about the only, if you run that during regular production, you will reset all your custom reports back to standard. So typically people won't be running that. If you do and you mess something up, then you go back to your database and restore your M2M system database from the night before, and that'll restore all those fittings back for you, or all those pointers back for you, so you have your custom reports. Now, the next thing I'm going to talk about is service packs. One of the big questions I get quite frequently, and let me see if I can find it here, is what CRs does the service pack fix? Now, what I'm going to do is, this is one of the service pack model or builds that you'll get from Aptean when you download it from Aptean Connect. Inside here, you have your service pack folder and you have your support files. So I'm going to open up the service pack folder. If you take a look into the folders, you'll see a bunch of MSIs in here. Oops, let me bring that back up. You got server set up, and there's all kinds of MSIs that are buried inside here. Do not run those MSIs directly. You want to run it from the setup.exe down here in order to load, make sure all the prerequisites are loaded and that you're also getting all your classes registered properly. Inside that M2M ERP folder as well is documentation. on how to do different aspects if you're doing the service pack. We can do the service pack for you. Most of our customers contract us to do it, but if you're feeling brave, you can actually come in here and do the and go through the READMEs and do it. As far as what I wanted to touch on is the CR documentation to find out, okay, was my problem fixed in this CR or in this service pack? If you open up this spreadsheet, I'll get it open here and drag it over. And it's a tough question to answer for some people because they want to know what changed. Well, if you come inside the file, and this one here, I got the service pack 22 as well, but this shows you everything that's changed in this service pack that's been worked on. Okay, this service pack may not have what you're looking for, but this service pack might have. Now, the theory is if it's fixed in this service pack, it should still be fixed in this service pack. But you will notice that some of these service packs had issues, they worked on something, and then in the next service pack, they fixed something that when they fixed it, inadvertently broke. And the reasons for that, a lot of people are wondering, okay, well, how does that happen? Made to Manage is a very large and robust product, and over the years, they've rolled out different functionality that integrates into the system. And the developer that may be working on that particular part of the product may not realize that a change he made to correct something that wasn't right, or it might be an enhancement that somebody wanted in the product, affected another module. A good example would be like field service, RMA. They all interact with sales orders, shippers, receivers. They may change something in one of those modules that inadvertently breaks something in another module. And then they'll have to change that back in order to make sure that it's not broken in the next service pack. Another rule of thumb with the service packs is when a service pack comes out, I usually don't recommend jumping to the first version of the service pack, because anybody with any history with Made to Manage knows that there's usually 1, 2, or 3 hot fixes that come out to correct things in the logic that may have been found once that service pack got released. When it gets released, it's been vetted, but it's a monumental task to test every potential situation that could arise, and that's why you end up with the hot fixes and other enhancements that come along. So if you're ever curious on what is fixed in a service pack, and if it's an issue you're dealing with, when you download that package, you can come out and look inside the CR documentation, and you'll get a listing of those items that were corrected. And like I say, we do service pack upgrades for people. We know the nuances, like Service Pack 22 introduced sales order unit of measure conversion. Service Pack 20, I don't recommend anybody go to Service Pack 20 without the hot fixes, because there were some serious cash receipt issues, the way it posted the cash. Service Pack 21 was pretty sound. And Service Pack 22, if you know the ins and outs of the sales order unit of measure conversion, then that one goes pretty easy. So that's basically it. We do the upgrades. We've taken people from 3.2 all the way up to 7.5.1, 4.01, or 4.01, 5.6, 6.01. So anything you need in that requirement, 7.03, 7.5. We've touched all the environments, worked with them all. I don't know if we have any questions that came in, or if we're going to save them for the end.
I do not have any questions right now.
There's a lot to put in. I could go on and on about service packs, and especially disaster recovery and backups, because that's like being a firefighter. But
That's all right. Well, thank you for your session, and thank you for all of the information.
Perfect. Okay, so let me stop sharing my screen. There we go.
So now we will move on to our tips and tricks with Ray, if you're ready.
I am.
All right.
Okay. Can you see my screen here?
Yes, I see your PowerPoint.
Okay. All right. Ready to go?
Yep.
Okay. Well, welcome everybody again, and thanks for joining us today. Excuse me. Again, my name is Ray. My last name is Freebertshauser, and that's 15 letters long. There'll be a test of spelling that at the end of this session. So a little bit background real quick. I spent 11 years implementing and running Made to Manage in a manufacturing environment. I then spent 15 years with Made to Manage, Consona, Aptian, as a consultant for them on the mostly on the install base side. I often find when talking to customers, there's a lot of things that we don't really know. And it goes back to the old statement that says we don't know what we don't know. So with that in mind, I kind of want to jump through and look at a few things here that might make your life a little bit easier. So let's go ahead and show a few things along the way. I strongly encourage you to throw up your hand or type in a question along the way. I have a number of different things I could show. We're going to kind of freeform it. I'm not a real PowerPoint guy to speak of, but just one basic screen to give you some good information as to what things we can possibly help you improve your efficiencies, if you will. We're talking about adding favorite screens and reports, keyboard shortcuts, the locator, the explorer, how you deal with pop-up tables, transfer tools, exporting to Excel, new printing. Many of you are currently on 751, and you may know a lot of this stuff. So if I provided you with something that seems overly obvious, I apologize, but there are a lot of people out there that do not know some of these things, and we'll try to open them up a little bit for you so you can get a better idea of what's going on here. Let's start here real quick with shortcut keys. If anybody wants a copy of this, they're welcome to it. We can get you this. The little changes were made when they moved to 751 on the .NET environment. Notably F3, some of you in the older versions would use this as a modify button. Since there's no longer a modify in Made to Manage, we don't need that F3 function anymore. Most everything else stayed the same. But again, I'm not going to go through all of these. Just note that these options are here should you be a keyboard type of person, and we'd be happy to share them with you if you'd like. Whoops, didn't want to go that far. So let me get out of here real quick, and let's just jump into Made to Manage, if you will. Okay, whoops, let's try that again. All right. Jessica, is this showing up okay? Just making sure. I did have some computer problems, folks, so I'm going to try to make it through all of this.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, good. This is my opening home screen for Made to Manage. Many of you probably don't use to-dos. I kind of like them because they give me a rundown of what I have put in my list of things that I need to get accomplished. Where do you do that? Well, that's in customer relationship and opportunity management here. We can set up some functional to-dos that we want to add to our list. And again, these are visible in numerous different places. The notion here is that when I started Made to Manage, I set this particular screen to auto-populate when I first start, so it would show me any of my to-dos that I need to address today. Some people find it helpful. A lot of people don't want to maintain this, but know that you can do it, and it is a viable option. Let's take a look at a couple other things here. Let's just look at a little bit of navigational tools here that some people don't totally get at times. Remember that all of your yellow fields are mandatory fields on the screens that you have. I do not have any particular customizations installed in here. So you have pretty much an out-of-the-box version of this application. If we go up here, we have a browse as we did before, and you can also toggle records left to right. And then we have the search function. As you all know, we've done that many, many times in the past. The search and browse functions are kind of nice now because as a .NET world, we can manipulate and make these screens our own. And these will be user specific. So should you go up here and do what we do with a lot of things, right click on your column header up here, you may want to go down and change or add or remove some columns that are not that viable for you. You'll get a little box down here that'll tell you these are the fields that you can display on the screen that are still available. These come out of the data dictionary. These are actual field names here. You'll note some of them are Anglified, if you will, or put into English for you. Should you want to alter these things, I don't need this particular column here. I'm just going to grab it, drag it, and throw it back on that list. Move them around where you want, not a problem. Add a field if you want, drag it up, move this over here. You've got a lot of options to customize this for your best viewing pleasure, if you will. The other options you have, again, are sort by any column header here if you want. It's a nice, quick way of doing it. And then we've got filters in here. So I may want to look at my obsolete items, or I may want to look, I'm sorry, my inactive items. I may want to look at a group code for sheet only. And notice I just typed SH in there and boom, we've got sheet. Little icon over here lets you go in and expand that searching function with logical connectors, logical approaches to extracting the data that you want. So you can do that as well. It contains a word. For instance, maybe I want to do something in the description and I want to find something that contains a word such as, let's see if we can do this, CRS. And you'll notice it grabbed those 3 items out of that list. So I've whittled it down a little bit further. The other option up here, many people don't know, is this little filter up here that you can throw in, and that'll bring you up a list of the options under that field. So it's not really functional for something like a description, but maybe I want to look at, and let me clear this filter down here. It's right here. Let's get that out of there and go back to the beginning. Maybe I want to look at a specific group code or something unique to the item that we can go in and select. I only want to look at stock items. Well, there you go. And it's small because I already have a filter enclosed in here. So if we get rid of that filter, we can go on again. Here's a little thing that a lot of people may not recognize here, and let's just grab this here and say, oh, I just want to look at my buy items. And I only want to look at those with the group code that has the word motor. Whoops, not motor. I've whittled that down pretty doggone fast and pretty quick. What can you do with this? Well, you can grab this information and you can export it. So if I hit that export button down below, it'll immediately throw it out into Excel for me. You can save this file, you can print this file, you can manipulate this file thereafter. It's a great tool for people who still and like to get their data out in this type of information or in this type of format so that they can manipulate it further if they want. Great tool. A lot of people use Excel. I never discourage somebody from using it. It's been around forever and it still does a bang up job. So, all right, let's move on a little bit. The search function, once we get into that mode, hang on one second, will allow us to go in and do searching in the same way we've done in the past. Just fill in the fields that you want. And once we get there, we can run a search. And I probably didn't find anything by running that search with an H in it. Oh, there you did. There we go. So off we go. We're in the same browse screen now that you can manipulate just like we did before. So either search or browse, good tool, gets you in there, lets you manipulate if the data to what you need to do. This applies across the board, by the way. So should you not want to, or should you want to do it in other screens, it's certainly feasible. All right, let's take a look at a couple other things here. Most everything in 7.5 stays pretty much the same. The navigational tools are those that that we've mentioned so far with the browsing and such. Let's jump over and grab a sales order here real quick. What can we do in the sales orders? Well, one of the things we can do, notice that you now have this little icon over here, which is a chain link. Of course, the drop down tells us what all of our options are, in this case, to ship via. But should we want to add a new one, we can click on that button and it launches the pop-up table, and you can add a new one right here directly without having to navigate to the pop-up screens. So that's a nice tool to have and be able to jump in there and grab that. We have reports. Obviously, those are pretty much what you've had before. The related screens have been basically enhanced a little bit over the years, but what we're telling you is there's 2 job orders associated with this. There's a sales order status screen. If you use advanced scheduling and planning and scheduling, you will link over to the interactive tools that are available over there. As long as your server is running, this user can access that particular server. So those are the related. The web links, these are really your attachments. These are pretty doggone powerful now, as that you can put a actual file and save that file in here, or you can create a link to that file by checking this box. Okay. In the past, what we really had was in the world of attachments and management. Let's go back to our item master real quick. Most people dealt with this engineering tab, where we could put in some files over here that we may want to access relative to this particular part. You can do that, and these fields will travel from the item master to a job order, for instance. So once a job's created for this item, these images will be there as well. But when this was added, we now have the ability to add additional tools in here to be able to look these up in the future, should we want to. They will not appear automatically on a job order, for instance, if you have an attachment to this item, but they will, in fact, be able to be accessed through the web link, so you'll see, or the and attachment link, so that you'll see them over there once you've got this aligned. Much of this stuff we're not going to really go into here. I'd like to point this out because I don't see, and over my experience, a lot of people that get in here and use this history screen, and I think it's a quick, powerful way to get information. So when I'm on here, notice it linked to the particular item that I was on. What type of history do you want? Well, in this case, maybe I want to see how many times or what type of build we had. And don't let this confuse you. Once you've populated this, you need to jump over here and click on the part number button. And of course, I picked something that has no good history in it. So let's go drag another one. And I think this one should be workable. Let's see what we get here on this one. There we go. And once we've done that, now we've got a completely linked screen showing us every particular piece of history from a job order standpoint on that particular item. Maybe you want to look at sales. Note that is available in the drop down. Switch it over, go to sales orders. We'll see every sales order we've had for this item. Of course, we're going to hit that button again and populate. I'll go back to the job orders just so you can see real quick. In this screen, once we're here, we're going to run this again. Notice these are underlined and highlighted in a different color. Those are direct links. Double click on them and that'll take you to that particular linked screen. A pretty efficient way to go in and answer a question. When's the last time I ordered this? What was the last price? How many did I order? All those good questions very quickly answered with a single screen that we can throw up and link to the screen that we're on. Okay. Jessica, we have any questions thrown up yet at all, or are we still good?
Actually, I have one.
Okay.
They said they run 751. Why do some screens not allow us to browse all records, namely purchase orders?
That may be a function of the browse settings in the Made to Manage INI. And Ken, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I believe that's the case. We can open that up and display more in this browse screen than what you traditionally see, the total number of records to show. It may be set at 100 and limiting you to what you're seeing. We can open that up, and I believe it's in an INI file, and I'll let my coworkers help me with that one.
Yeah, that's correct, Ray. It's in your INI, there's a browse records, which is usually defaults to 50, and then there's a browse records limit, which you can set to be higher than what you have in that particular table. One thing to remember is you want to keep your limit. Your limit can be as high as you want, but I would not put that browse records really high, because if you got everybody bringing in all the records from that table every time, you're going to see performance.
Good point. Yes. I mean, if you've got 150,000 item master records and you load them all at the same time, or massively, and somebody else at the same time hits it, it can jog things quite a bit.
Yep.
That file is the M2M win.ini. Ken?
That's correct. Yep, in the Windows subdirectory.
Right. So if anybody needs any help with that, just let us know. We can walk you through that and get you hooked up there. Okay. How did I get there? I completely forgot. I'm going to jump over here to executive information. For those of you who do not look at these overview screens, I can only say to you, go look at them. I think they're extremely powerful. They're very valuable. You don't have to run them all. You can examine what you want. This is my production overview. This is traditionally what Made to Manage was built upon, the framework it was built upon, and that is what we call managed by exception. I don't want to look through 100 records. I just want you to show me the 32 jobs released but not scheduled, or the jobs with a status of started. Why would that be? Well, we probably have a reason for that. So we can dig into these very quickly and find that information should we want to. Again, this is under executive information. There's a sales overview, a production overview, and a financial overview. Very, very powerful tools. There's also been added over the years these business analytics. I'm going to pop this open. These are all reports that don't start with the R letter. They start with the B letter. These are business analytics reports. Let's take a look at procurement on-time delivery, for instance. Now, this is going to throw us into this parameter screen here. And for those of you that are new to Made to Manage 7.5, the toolbar to run these particular reports, or any report, looks like this above, where you have the option to display it, print it, throw it out to file, email it, mail merge it, just browse the data, go into the Explorer. We'll look at that in a minute. And maybe I want to schedule this thing to run every night. You do have those options. The notion of this will allow us to go in and display the data. But what I want you to really understand, and I hope this doesn't collapse on me here, and that's exactly what it's doing, because it's trying to launch my Excel here. So I'm going to cancel this, get rid of this. I apologize. This is a new computer. I don't have it all set up with my proper a proper outlook. What's going to happen, and I apologize for this, but what's going to happen here is this is going to throw this out into an Excel file, and it's actually pivoting it, putting it into a pivot table so that you can, once again, manipulate and analyze that data that best fits your needs. So I highly recommend looking at these, getting a feel for them. This is just a production one. Over the years, I've had many questions on delivery on time, procurement on time, manufacturing production efficiencies. These are all really key reports. And once you run these reports, you can actually save them as well, should you want to. So once again, sales analytics, you've got activity, opportunity, sales trend, sales order analysis. You've got production we just looked at, and you got a financial analysis, which is just really one report. The thought was they would be adding some in the future. This is a work in process report, so it's helpful in clearing your end of month or closing your end of month as well. Okay, let's take a look at a few other things here. I like the option of having these toolbars over here now. I happen to locate mine over here. You can throw it anywhere you want. Just grab the toolbar and drag it over. So let's take a look real quick. You're familiar with the favorites toolbar. Again, this is a toolbar that allows me to throw in the screens that I work in most frequently. Very easy to put these in here. You basically go to your transfer screen. For those of you that are familiar with it, it's right up here on the left. And then I can throw these to right click on this. I can throw this right over into my favorites. So very simple. Go to your transfer screen, find the one you want, right click on it and say throw it into my favorites over here. And these will launch the screens for you as needed. Okay, that's one of the screens. Now we're going to move on to the next one, which is what we call Explorer. And I personally, this has been around for a while, but we've found that the enhancements that they put into this are very, very powerful. Keep an eye on, or keep a notion right here on this particular item I have. And these are saved Explorer favorites that I've chosen. So we can throw these on this toolbar as well. We can explore anything if we want to, and that's typically done right here on the home screen in this launch box right here. Launch the Explorer and do whatever search you really want to do. I'm going to put it up there. You notice this is for sales orders, and right here is the favorites box over here on the right side. Click that, and that will display it over on your toolbar over here. So while we're in here, let's take a look at this. Again, this is a list of all the sales orders in the system that we have. Notice that we've got the hyperlink, so I can jump over into that. Notice, again, this is .NET, sorting, column choosing, fitting them, a lot of different things you can do here, and the same basic search functions that we had before. What we want to do here is sort this out, maybe go to a particular part number if we want. But logically, I'm going to look at everything I have that's currently open. I know my customer is Cohen, and I know this is the sales order I want. So very quickly, click on that summation of the header of the sales order here. Notice you can also search on sales orders by your customer PO. So if they call you, do you have a PO number? You don't have my sales order number? Just throw that in there, run the refresh, and it will repopulate this panel over here. This is the sales order I'm interested in, customer PO 5555. Again, hyperlink, double click on it. It launches the sales order screen, so I've got information. For those of you that don't use this, by the way, I've got a little suggestion. Whenever you're in a sales order screen and looking for active data, go to related and go to your sales order status. This is a very, very important screen to get familiar with because it gives you details on the sales order, details on the supporting job orders or inventory structure, details on shipping as it was done, and if you use progress billing, we have that available as well. So keep that in mind, sales order status versus just the sales order. Now, what the beauty of the Explorer is I don't have to just hyperlink. I can right click on this, and what it's done now is thrown that sales over into the left panel. As you see, sales order 220, and that has now exploded all of these various screens that are associated with this particular sales order. Do I want to go to a job orders? I can look up the job orders tied to this. I can look at the customers, the contacts, the salesperson, the account information. But I want to look at the sale or the job order, and here is the job order. Again, double click, hyperlink it out, you're on the job order. As with the sales order, I also highly recommend you get familiar with job order status screen, or JO stat, if you don't use it now. What am I doing here? Well, I'm not going to link it out to there. I'm just going to right click on it again. And once again, it's going to explode that particular record on and now tell me everything it knows about that. And on we can go, should we want to go further. So you've got a very, very strong drilling tool, if you will, as we like to call it in the past. Okay, that's your job order. This is your sales order. Again, we can explode this information and get more detail should we want to. Okay. The other thing we can do, by the way, as we did before, is utilize the export function. So we can throw this out and export this as well once you've got what you need. If you need to analyze it further, go ahead and use that. Good tool. So basically, whatever screen you're going into relative to Explorer, remember, you're not just hyperlinking. You're able to drill down and drill down very effectively. Very, very good screen, very powerful if you use it in the proper manner, okay? Know the searching functions available. The last thing I have on my toolbar over here is my locator. Now, many of you remember the old locator, which was a couple of, an icon that had a couple of eyeglasses, or some people said it looked like two people sitting on a park bench. This is the locator, and initially in 751, locator was removed. For the fact that we had this new Explorer that seemed to be much more effective. Well, we found out, or they found out from the customer response, I want my locator back. So old habits are hard to break, as they say. So what we did was, or what Appian did, was recreated the locator screen in a different format, as you see right now. So whether it's a quotation, a job, a PO, a receiver, any of those, I can go in and hunt this down. And let's go back to my friends over here. Let's sort this down, and I want to go to my friends at Colby. And I want to see what's out there for them. So what this will do is allow me, first of all, I can delete that value if I want. Second of all, I can open the quote screen directly from here, as we're going to do. Whoop, no record found. Okay. And thirdly, we can throw this out into the Explorer we were just in. So what I'm going to do here is, let's go here over to sales orders. Let's go find a customer real quick. Let's go grab Colby Equipment just for whatever. I would like to see open sales order screen, and boom, there are your sales orders. Not open, but all the sales orders for our friends at Colby. Another way to dig into this information. Another way to export your data if you want to. All right. Not only can we do that, we can also go in and say, I would like to explore this. And grab that one. And then it'll allow me to launch the Explorer screen and auto-populate that sales order over here on the left and explode it accordingly. So as you can see, not only are these screens interlinked, they have many of the same functions, just a different way of going about them. Again, you'll have a way to open that screen, and that particular screen, you'll be able to go in and go to the sales order status screen if you want. And these change as we go down through here a little bit, and then we can throw this out to the Explorer. So with that in mind, you have two options of extracting data that you find very, very helpful in your day-to-day routines. All right, these tools, again, very, very popular. Some people get a little bit intimidated by some of them. It's just a matter of working with them a little bit and basically getting into a rhythm with them, so you know exactly how to go in and put the filters in, put the searches in, etc. We talked about my to-dos earlier. I want you to note over here, there is activity function here. So should I want to associate a particular to-do with this sales order, I can do it. Just throw it in here as a to-do. It'll show on my to-do list when I'm back into my CRM, if you will. Speaking of CRM, that's right here. For those of you that don't use it, that's fine. Those of you that do, there's opportunity management in here so that we can go through and create a list or a particular, for our sales folks, we have an opportunity to sell our applications a particular part. And that reminds me, this happens to be a non-standard. So I want to go back and show you that one screen we were talking about in Explorer. You know, opportunities are the ability to build something to keep track of where we're at. We quoted it. Did we sell it? Nope. We did quote it. Here's what we quoted. Once you have these in play, you know, and many people already have their own CRM application. I understand that, but this is a function that's available and made to manage. Should you use it, choose to use it, and give you some options as to how you want to drag information into here. We can actually create sales or quotes and link them to those opportunities so we don't lose that linkage. Reports, we'll skip the field service. That's an add-on module for me to manage. But bottom line is there are CRM functional reports in here that we can go through, grab the information, link a salesperson, link multiple salespeople should you want. A number of different options there as well. We can set potentials, we can project dates, and then we can monitor these and establish where we want to put our efforts in our sales team relative to where we stand from an opportunity management standpoint. So that's a little bit about CRM. There's obviously more that can be done in there. There is a setup for opportunities, so you can set up different variables in these screens to use to your satisfaction. And that's something that you could deploy anytime you want to, should you want to. Okay. Again, executive information we looked at. I'm not going to go into the planning and scheduling world per se. Just a notation. And this is not really tips or tricks. This is basically information associated with what's available to you. Made to Manage's core product has a planning and scheduling tool as a part of its core. The planning piece is basically what people refer to as MRP, and the scheduling piece. Our product, you have a basic infinite scheduler. This is a tool that is called a whiteboard scheduler. For us old folks that have been around for a long time, we remember the days with the whiteboard out in the plant where we'd line up the jobs and tell everybody, okay, here's your next job, here's your next job, here's how we do that. Very manual approach to scheduling, but it's very intuitive in that it shows you where the jobs are, when do you want to start them, and basically from a scheduling standpoint, it is a manual process of a scheduler to align the jobs in the most favorable manner. If you choose to upgrade that to the advanced scheduler, that product is an add-on product, It uses the same planning engine, or MRP, but the scheduling tools are different. It is what we call a theory of constraints module or model, or some people may have heard of that structure as Ely Goldratt put it. It's a drum buffer rope theory. Bottom line is it's an automatic finite scheduler, and it can give you some pretty decent results. So keep that in mind. That's something that we have out there as well. I'm not going to go into the add-ons such as electronic or data interchange or EDI, some of the other add-ons such as field service and such. But remember that most of the screens, if not almost all of them, really functionally have not changed per se. What we have is the ability to analyze, extract, find, and move data in a more efficient manner based on the notion of what .NET has afforded this application and such. I'm not going to go into a whole heck of a lot more detail here. How are we doing for time, Jennifer? I'm not sure if we're up against it or...
We're good. You still got about 20 minutes.
Okay, I'm not sure I can fill that 20 minutes, so we're going to ask people to start throwing their questions out here, and I'll come up with a few more things. Let me see if I can grab something that makes some good sense here. Let's go into production. Couple little things here. If you're using Shop Floor Manager by any chance, this supervisor's console can be launched directly from within the Made to Manage application. So if you've got a supervisor that runs Made to Manage and utilizes Shop Floor Manager, this might give them an option of getting over there quickly. Job order mass status change. This was added years ago, but can be very, very powerful should you want to use this. I may want to look at all my completed jobs. There's no eligible at this point in time, so I'm not worried about that. Come on. And I've got a bad range here. So, but basically what we're doing in this world here is we're going to go in and say, show me the jobs that have this status, and I want to change it to this status. So if it's released, this is going to change down here. We can go in and reset those or select the ones we want and change the status in mass. I don't highly recommend doing this. Typically, it can create sometimes a shortcut, but it can also create a loss of information relative to what has happened with the job. In other words, let me get on my soapbox here for 1 minute. Started, open, and released. We're talking about job orders now. Started, obviously, we just started a job and there's nothing going on with it. We're still doing work on it. Open is when the job's been created. Now that open job is basically what some people will refer to as a planned job. Released is when we decide to take that open job and release it to the floor. So for me, and a lot of people miss this, but for me, there's a big distinction between open and released. If I create jobs today that aren't due for 3 months, I may not want to release those to the floor because they'll just sit around collecting dust. Why don't I hold on to those and then release them when it's time to release them? And of course, you know, under production management, now that we're on that subject, you know, we can go to the job order release screen as well to find all of the open jobs and release from there. But this screen allows us to go in and do it a little bit different way. One of the ways I would probably suggest using this is for accounting folks, you can take your completed jobs, and completed in the Made to Manage role actually means it's it's basically physically done. It's going through the process. It's complete and ready to move to the next phase. Ship it, move it to inventory, whatever. But at the end of the month, or somewhere during the process of the overall month, we want to close these jobs. And a closing of a job order is a financial closing, meaning it writes to the general ledger for your cost of goods, clears your WIP, and all that good stuff. It's a great place for the accounting folks, the order costing folks, whoever handles this. They can see all completed jobs and go from there. Move them into whatever status they see fit. And there may be some they don't want to close because they want to look at it because this should not have cost this much to run. There's also an option to set auto closing criteria here. So I'm not going to go into all the detail, but there are several different switches in here to allow you to say, okay, auto close stock jobs when, my labor variance is within 10%. I don't need to look at all of this stuff. I just go ahead and close it if it matches those criteria. You can do that. And sometimes people find that this can be a quick way to go through their closing process instead of looking at each and every individual job one at a time. So that's a nice screen that's out there. Many people don't even realize it's there. I just like to point that out and give you an idea. We do have a lot of people that use Shop Floor Manager product, and I'd be happy to show some of that if there's anything that people really want to see relative to that, if there's any questions that come up. One thing that I also would like to note as a change in 751 is the purchasing queues. Now, we do have a purchasing queue summary screen as we had it before. It's up and down, not left and right. Where, excuse me, we have a whole list of all the items that we need to purchase. And as we select an item, as it does in the current version, it gives us the detail of why we need to buy it. It doesn't give us a lot more than that. This is what we call a pure flat out netting screen, if you will, that nets the demand against the supply if there's stock, or nets the one-to-one relationship on a make item to the sales order to the job order. So this is still here and functionally operates in much the same way that it did in the past. Again, you can create different filters here, if you will. One of the things that people may not realize is under the purchasing world, there's another POQ now called the planned POQ. This is driven by running planning and scheduling, namely the planning piece. So that when we run a plan through Made to Manage or an MRP run, it will come in here and say, these are all the items we found that you need to purchase. Okay. And if I need to purchase this, show me some information here. Well, it's pretty straightforward. I go to related, I can go to material availability, and then it automatically links over to the planning and scheduling module. I don't think it's going to run because my server is not started. But if it is, it will allow you to go in and link to these screens in the planning and scheduling module. So peg the demands will come up and throw the screen up that gives us a very specific detail of what is creating the demand on these items. Much like the original, before I go any further, the only way you're going to populate this screen is if you use the planning piece of planning and scheduling. This is only populated if you run planning or MRP. So without doing that, you won't be using this screen at all. But there is some beauty to this. There's some wonderful functions here, setting dates, much like the other queue. Oops, sorry about that color. This is just all of your starting or awaiting approval POs that are sitting out there. Maybe you're trying to build a truckload or something to that effect. And then the other thing it does is when we run planning and MRP, it brings back a list of changes that need to be made. That change could be a function of quantity. We're moving from a quantity to another quantity, or date schedules. Somebody changed the due date on the sales order. MRP finds that, says you've got this on order. You don't need it here, you need it here. And forgive me for my old dates. I have an old image that I had to install in this kind of a rush rebuild I did. But nonetheless, these functions will allow you to go in and update the status of these. And for instance, this is PO number 148. It wants me to move the due date. I can do that, and I simply say apply the change. I can reject the change because I'm not willing to work on it today. They run the plan again tomorrow, it'll come up again. Or what many MRP functions cannot do is mark this date and quantity final. Why? Well, because it's on a ship coming from Pakistan. Well, I can't speed the ship up. I'm not going to fly a helicopter out there and land it to get these parts. Stop bugging me every day to move this. Now, once I've done this, you'll get a flag on the PO that says somebody in this new PO queue did mark it date and final. I want to show you what happens if I apply a change here, just to give you some notion. It's been applied, and it's now going to disappear from here. What I want you to see, and this is kind of a two-prong effect here, I'm going to go to purchase orders. I'm going to go find my, okay, let's try it again. Search. Okay, and that PO was 148. Let's do our search. And let's go cooperate with me. Okay, very good. You'll notice here, that's PO 148. Notice over here, it's at a rev level 02. There's been 2 revisions made to this PO. Now, how do I make revisions to a PO? Manually, you can go in, and you can do this elsewhere, but I want to go in and say, this is me, this is this. I'm going to add a revision that says the following. I did the following, and I talked to this guy, and if you can read that, you're a lot better man than I am, or woman. We now have 3. But what I want you to see is if I go to the revision history, this might take a second to load, but what you're going to see is there was a revision 1. Revision 2 will show me the change I just made when I clicked on that change the status and move the date function. It will show up on this report so that I can see every revision that was ever made on this sales order relative to either using a manual revision, as we see here in the top left, or we use this screen on the planned POQ to push it through and make the change. So that's an added, this new POQ is an added advantage if you're running either basic planning and scheduling or advanced planning and scheduling. I forgot one thing. I'm going to come back here over to my favorites again and notice something here. For those of you that use non-standard parts, there is an exploration screen for non-standard items. This shows me every order that I've put in, every opportunity, every quote, every RFQ, every invoice. Well, I don't need all of that. I just want to look at my sales orders. So these are sales orders for part numbers that do not exist in the item master, but they're non-standard items. Very difficult in the past to look these up. Very easy in this product to do it, because I may know that it is air applications. Whoops, let's start using skinny fingers here. And I don't know what we call this thing. All as I know is it had the number 44 in it. And bango, there it is. And once we're there, we can go ahead and open this like we've done before. And we can right click it and we can expand it just like we've done in the past. And we can see everything we need to see about that particular order. So keep that in mind for those of you that use non-standards. very, very good way to get to that information and hunt it down. All right. I'm getting out of breath here, and you're probably tired of listening to me chatter on about this. So
I
think
do
we have
actually
about
have a question for you.
I'm sorry?
I said I do have a question for you.
Oh, great. Let's have it.
Someone asked, can you talk about the production analyzer and the supervisor console? Why should or shouldn't we select all and update all routings?
Why shouldn't we? Okay. I'm not sure I understand that question. Can you say it again? Because
Yeah. It says, can you talk about the production analyzer and supervisor console? And then a part 2 of it is, why should or shouldn't we select all and update all routings?
Okay. All right. Now I get it. I don't suggest doing an all routing update, especially if you've got sizable variances in there. So let's take a look at this. I'm going to launch this here, and it may take a second to bring it up. My laptop is smoking with all the resources I'm throwing at it. All right. In the shop floor manager, we're talking about the product analyzer. And for those of you that don't know what that is, bottom line is it's a tool that allows us to go back in history and look at all the jobs that we've created and ran and analyzed. So in the supervisor's console is this tab over here, production analyzer. And we're just going to go in and show all of this. And what I like to do when I look at this is the key to me is basically the variance of what we projected in a standard time to what the average time has been. Now, why do I want to look at this? Because there can be quite a large variance on certain jobs. I've got a $387 or 7% variance on this particular item. It should have taken 2 hours to build this, and it took 9 3/4 hours. I don't want to just go in and update that. I probably want to take a look at this. Let's see, where were we on this? Let's take this item here, and then let's go down and look at the product analyzer. And this is going to show us, and this is not a great example simply because there's only one job order here. Let me make this more simple here. I have a list that tells me how many jobs, and this would be a good one because there's 6 jobs that were included. Let's click that, and let's go look at the production analyzer. And here it lists all of the jobs that we had with the production time, the quantities, what was scrapped, and the times associated with it. Again, all .NET, so we have the ability to change this and add numbers and such. What do I want to do here? I might want to look at this because some of the actual variances may be a lot more than what we thought they should be. Now, this one's not too bad. Let's look at punch. We got some pretty solid numbers here. The shear, we can look at these and compare again. So I think my point to you, to answer your question, is I like to sort this. I like to weed out big variances first because somebody could have clocked in wrong. Somebody could have forgot to clock out and went in later and did it. There could be a number of reasons, but I don't want to be going in and reporting that it took us 10 hours to do something that we have historically run in an hour. There had to be something that was wrong and nobody would have documented it. So that's my approach. Other people take a different approach. They don't really care about that. They just select them all and just update them. You can also selectively update because if you click on this field here, you don't need to use the average time. You can, maybe I want to round this number. You can go in and change that, select that item, and then update the routing. If I understood your question correctly, I think that's what you might have been asking. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, it
Anything
did.
else?
They said it did
Oh,
answer their question. So thank you. And thank you for your whole presentation today.
okay.
All
If
right.
there's any questions, shoot them out. We'll address them at the end. Hope you find this helpful. And again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to call People Sense, and we'll can help you walk through or give you a little bit more advanced training or more detail on these particular subjects we've discussed. Anything else as well. So with that, thank you for your time. I enjoy doing this. I especially enjoy talking to people one-on-one about these things, and it's wonderful to hear them say, oh my God, I didn't know I could do this and make my life easier. Hopefully this was helpful.
Great.
Have a good
Thank you
day.
so much.
And we'll talk to you in a bit.
Yep. So we will go ahead and move on to our next session with customizations and tariff. Susan, if you are ready, I will pass it over to you.
Yep, I am ready. All right, do you see my PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. All right. I'm Susan Edwards. I have been working with the Made to Manage product for over 2 decades now. Worked very closely with Ken for a number of years before coming to PeopleSense. I do regular support as well as customizations throughout the system. And one of the big topics that we have been talking about recently is tariffs. So I want to start with a little bit of, I know you all probably are fully aware, tariffs have a big impact on anyone who is having to bring materials into the United States. Even if you are sending materials elsewhere, tariffs come into play. What we are finding is the impact the tariffs are having is very different for every company. Each company has their own supply chain. They have their own way of handling things. They also have very different ways of how to handle the tariffs that are coming their way. Some companies will build the tariff amount into the part cost for the item master. We find this whenever it's not where they're buying something to immediately sell to a customer. They are actually creating jobs for that part with using that part as a raw material. And so they try to build the tariff amount into it so that they can then cost their jobs appropriately. Some companies only build in a certain amount of the tariff because they quote unquote choose to eat some of the tariff costs as the cost of doing business, while others put the entire amount in. Which way is right? There's not a wrong way. Your customers will say one thing, but what's reality for you to be able to stay in business and to do what you need to do? So that's just going to be very different for each company. Some companies will go in and they want to add a separate line item to any customer-facing documents to show the tariff costs. This is their transparency. Some have gotten feedback from their customers saying, hey, I want to know exactly what the tariffs are. And then they get arguments about, hey, I shouldn't be paying your tariff costs. That's the cost of you doing business. But that ultimately, whether you show it on your customer-facing documents is completely up to you as an organization. There are also many ways that this will play out between all the different companies. There might be a mix and mingle of all of this. So, can we do one thing and make it work for everyone? No, because every organization is different. To start with, I believe that what we're hearing, at least to start with, companies are manually keeping track of their tariffs. Some I've heard are using spreadsheets. Some are using an odd database somewhere. Some are just writing it down. That's an option. Is it ideal? No, because you're more prone to error in where you're going to apply the tariff costs within the system. But it's an option. Another option, though a kludgy one, is to use landed costs. Landed costs were originally created for something like, similar to tariffs, you have material coming from overseas, and so it's what's the cost to get it from one place to the other. Doing landed costs for this does require more attention from staff, not necessarily as much attention as manually keeping track, but it can be confusing, and it can be a complicated way to keep up with making sure that everything's right. So, what are some other options that we've come up with? What you're going to see here is basically a multi-leveled approach that you can do. Some companies might want to do one piece of it. Some might want the whole thing. At the basic level, everyone would, who wants to try to automate and keep track, would need to have some kind of modification to the item master screen. This, you need to know what your HST code is, because what I'm understanding when I talk to customers is that's the key to know what the tariff percentage is for a specific country. So you need to be able to list in the item master, what's the HST code? So we add a field for that. I usually would recommend doing a drop down so that it's consistent. Users can choose the same thing because they are set codes. We then would recommend adding like a grid to the item master that would allow you to, for that item master part, enter in the country and the percentage that particular part has for tariff. So the question that would come up for some people is, okay, why are we doing that at the part number level and not as a completely separate screen? Well, we've seen that tariffs tend to move and sway around, and what's covered under one HST code might be different. So trying to leave it at the part level allows for more flexibility when all is said and done. Then what we can do is create a custom screen that will allow for those percentages to be updated. So on that screen, you would be looking at an HST, you'd enter in what the HST code is. You'd also enter what country you want to update, put in the percentage that you want that HST code for that country to be, and it will go down through the system. So by keeping the item master level for where those percentages are held, those item master parts then would get updated with the correct percentage for the HST code and country. And on the item master, you could have 10, 15, however many countries you want. This additional screen would only update the line records that match up with HST and country. So that's a very basic level. Does it do any automation? No, other than updating having the ability to update the percentages at the item master level. This is a starting point. It could also be an ending point for some sites. If you just need to be able to see it so that you can say, okay, I want to apply costs as I go, okay, you've got it. A next level that we can do, though, is on specific screens. So on the sales order, if I am adding a line item for a part that has an HST code, I can actually put a flag in there that can alert the user that, hey, tariffs are in play. This would allow the user to decide, okay, do I need to increase the cost of my line item price? Because some sites are doing that. They're just increasing that particular line item's price and not putting in a line for tariff. So that gives that ability for the user. They could also choose to, hey, I need to add a line item for tariff. So the fact that they know that there's a tariff possibly at play, we can flag them. It is not, at that point, we're still not doing anything automated other than making the user aware. Some sites that might be enough. Other sites, they might want some more. So another step that we could go to is, of course, all the previous stuff would need to be in place. But we could add on those screens, like the sales order, the purchase order. We can add on to those, basically information about, okay, these are the countries that have this HST code for this part, and these are the percentages, so that the user can see it. And it can actually be one where you add a column to that even, that calculates out, depending on which line item they're on, it'll change and it'll say, this is the tariff dollar amount for what is currently on the selected line item. Of course, if there's a line item that doesn't have an HST code, that would be blank or be hidden. But it can, if we go ahead and add the additional column that calculates that tariff dollar amount, it saves the user having to either type into a calculator, which, so I'll be realistic, we're not typically doing that math in our heads. We're typing it in somewhere. They can always validate it and verify that it's correct, but it probably will only take a little bit before they're confident that it's right. And it'll make it to where they can then choose, okay, do I add this dollar amount to my line item price, or do I add a new line item? And even as I'm thinking about this, we could add what the line item extended cost is, plus what the calculated tariff dollar amount is, so that the user doesn't have to do that addition for themselves either. This is, again, at this level, we're not actually updating the standard tables and fields that say the sales order or potentially the AR invoice, but we're making information available to the user to be able to use as needed. Slightly more automated, which actually this is way more automated. We'd have all the above because I would still want to show the user what the calculations look like, but we would allow it to add automatically, either by a click of a button or when they save, either add a line item for the tariff for that line, for the line item that was just saved. It could also, you know, you can do have multiple line items modified or added before you hit save. Could also add one for each of them as it goes through. It could do a tariff line item that sums all of the tariffs for all of them. If the organization so desires, it could also simply modify the unit price for each of the line items to add on the tariff amount. So again, very organization specific, but it can be done. One thing to understand though, when we get to this level, to automate something, we need a consistent pattern. So each organization needs to think about, okay, how exactly are we doing this? Are we always doing A, B, C, or do we sometimes do A, D, E? And so being able to write down exactly what scenarios there are can help us to properly program it. Most of the time, it's probably going to be fairly consistent, but we can also make loopholes available as well. So in summary for tariffs, there is no one size fits all. Every organization is different, how they're going to do things, but the key is going to be putting together an internal team that understands how that particular organization needs to apply tariffs when ordering and invoicing, and come up with, okay, this is how we're going to do it. We're more than happy to help with those discussions, but that is going to be one of the keys. You want to make sure you've got your order entry, someone on the order entry side, as well as in finance especially, because tariffs are ultimately a finance task. So I do have, Jess, do we have any questions so far or comments?
I do not.
Okay. If you do have any, feel free to send them over. I'm going to pass on to a next slide, and we can always just answer questions about tariffs and other ideas there when we get to the full questions. Other customizations that I've seen customers do. Mass update item master pricing. I had a customer who had specific criteria that they wanted to add new fields to the item master, and then we created a screen and they entered in that criteria and increased those item master prices by X amount, whatever they put on that screen. So we could also go by spreadsheet. If you have a spreadsheet that you want to import in to update all the item master prices, we can do that. Something that I've had a couple of customers do, and this kind of goes against one of the rules, but yet if you're off maintenance, your risk is very low. JRLs. I've had a customer ask to add Work Center. I had another customer ask to add another field altogether to the JRLs grid. We can do that. It does take modifying a standard view to do it, but we are able to do that. It's just one of those things where, because there's a risk, you have to make sure you've got things in place. But I have tested the process considerably, and I've had a customer who's been running JRLs with it for probably about a year now. So nothing negative there. Also, something that customers or users like to see is what's been previously shipped on my sales order. Do I want to see a total quantity shipped or dollars shipped? Do I want to see per line item? So that's something else that we can do. And I've had a couple of customers request that as well. One of the other big things is industry-specific fields. Made to Manage was made as a generic. That's why it had the customer base it did and still does. But certain industries need specific information. So depending upon where that information needs to be, we can add fields and help you with that. Also, update, report, or printed document logos. We can help with those. And we can also help to add additional verbiage to reports. Those last two are something that I see a trend. It seems to go in waves where customers want their logos updated or need to add extra verbiage. And one of the big key things that we look at, you go off maintenance and then you find that there's a bug in the product. Can we do customizations to fix them? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. What you're going to see here, things that were fixed in Service Pack 21, or to fix Service Pack 21 issues, could be from prior, but the RPA PAG had an incorrect balance due displayed when the invoice is partially paid that was fixed in Service Pack 22. We can help you to fix that. The report side, 99% of the time, we're going to be able to help you fix some report issue. Screens, that's where it gets a little more dicey. Things to fit that Service Pack 23 fixed in 22. The first two make me laugh. The quotation document and the purchase order document, they apparently were not printing in line item order. Someone broke the ordering. That we can help you with. The packing list, apparently the packing list was not limiting to only what lot numbers were on the ship selected on the shipper. It was showing every single lot available for that part. So we can add that limitation for you. So if you find that you're off maintenance, or even if you're not off maintenance and you don't want to move service packs because, as Ken mentioned, some of them are kind of shady, we have some issues with, let us know what issues you're having, and we can do some looking and see, okay, what can we do to help you resolve? It might be a customization, it might be helping you figure out a process change, but we should be able to help you come up with something to help alleviate the pain. All right, that is everything that I have.
Well, I do. I have a question for you.
Ooh, okay.
So, if you did a separate line item for the tariff, is there any way to link it to the product line item that is requiring the tariff in the event there are multiple product line items on the sales order?
Awesome question. Yes. What we would do is we could either make a visible or invisible field that would have, say, which line item it is. I'd probably also have a couple of extra fields. I'd use key values to link it over, but we would be able to definitely do that link.
All right. If you guys have any other questions, now is the time that we will open it all up. I will put my screen back up.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions, please let us know. Here's everyone you can get a hold of on our team. Also, you're always welcome to call us at the office here if you have any questions. One of the things I did want to talk to everyone about is we have a whole bunch of customers that we've already moved over to Acumatica. Some customers are thinking about moving over to another ERP software. If you are, please let us know. We're your provider now, so I actually researched 5 or 6 different ERP softwares, and we really liked Acumatica out of all of them. So if you have questions or you want to see a demo, please let us know. And Jim McCormick, we can actually set up a demo with you, give you a 30-foot overview, so you can actually just see what the software looks like. There's no commitment, just at least let you know what's out there. We also do have webinars and things like that too later down the road. There's no rush, there's no push. We're just glad that you're a PeopleSense customer and you work with us. And if there's something that we need to do better, please let us know. Any questions from anyone?
Yes, so I do have a question for the team. They say they're not entirely sure how the landed cost flows through the system, but as far as they understand, the built-in cost is held and then relieved when the receiver's invoice, and this causes issue with timing, especially at month end. Is there any way that the landed cost can be moved when the purchase order is received?
So Ken, is that one that you or Susan might know, or I could bring in Christine for that?
I would love Christine's input.
Or Ray?
I'll defer to Christine on this one.
Yeah, I'll defer to Christine as well.
I don't think she's on. Just looking on our list, I don't
She
think
is
she's
not on here today.
Okay. So we'll get that question for you. Can I have Christine call you back later today? She's in the office today. I know that. She was on working with customers. I can have her answer that question for you if that will help.
Yes, I can forward the question to her and I can have them reach out to you. All right, you guys have any other questions? We have all of our consultants here. This is a free-for-all. Ask them whatever you want to know.
And if we don't know the answer, we'll get the answer for you. And we'll normally get it for you hopefully today or tomorrow. We won't, just joking, we won't be like the app team, get you back 3 days later or 3 weeks later.
Also, if you guys would like to come off of your mic, we can do that as well if you'd like to verbally ask your questions to our consultant and have a back and forth with them.
And we had a lot of customers on here today, so I want to thank everybody for coming out to the webinar and let us know how we can make it better. If you want to, we used to do it for 8 hours throughout the day for different people, different third parties coming in, things like that. And we just all thought it was a very long day for everyone. So we brought it down to 2 hours.
All right. Another question for everyone is that on an invoice that is from multiple receivers, when looking at an individual receiver, it doesn't show the invoice associated when using the related function. That another
Ken, would you be able to do that one or no?
I would have to see that. I'm not sure I can comment on that without actually seeing it in action.
Okay. Well, we will have Ray or Christine reach out
Ken or Christine. Yeah, should be able to get the answer for you today.
to see what you guys can do to have help with that.
And we should have everyone's contact information. You signed up with email, stuff like that. So we have everyone's phone numbers normally for our customers. So we should be able to get back to you.
Yes. So you guys have any other questions? It can be about anything with Made to Manage. We have our team here, and they love answering questions. While we wait for questions to roll in, Jim or Jimmy, is there anything you would like to say?
Jimmy Cooey, anything from you?
No, nothing for me. If we want, I can show how to put in a ticket.
Oh yeah. If
Yes,
you want to show the website, Jim, if you want to bring that up, that'd be great.
Switch it over to you.
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right, let's see if I can do this without breaking it.
So as Jimmy's bringing it up, he's going to show you the website and how you can actually put work tickets in, how there's feature sheets, white sheets that you can download, or anyone on here can get a hold of Jimmy or Jessica, and they can send you information on the M files, on Acumatica, on Mobile Manage, anything that you want out there. They can send you a feature sheet just so you can look at it. Good, and Jimmy's screen is up.
You can see it?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. All right. So here's our ERP website. We have a few different websites, one for HR, one for our time attendance, and then one for our M files. So if you're on the right one, it's peoplesenseerp.com. At the top right corner, you'll see where we have our help desk. You just click on that. And then 3 different options will appear. So that'll be for Acumatica, Made to Manage, which is the one you'll go to, and then Intuitive. Just click on Made to Manage. You'll be able to fill out this simple form. You can also, at the bottom, we have our live chat. This will go to Jess or I. And if I'm not tied up, I'll be able to get to it right away, or Jess will be able to get to it if she's not tied up. And those are the 2 ways you can do it like that. We also have our M2M support email that was shown earlier. If you send an email to that, it essentially functions the exact same way. You would just send it to that. A few of our people have access to that, and we would be able to get back to you in a more timely manner than if you just sent it to, say, one of our consultants who might be tied up all day on a go live and can't even check their email. So either putting myself or the Made to Manage support ticket was a good way to assure that you are getting the support that you need.
Yes, and to add to you, Jimmy, and to answer a question, if you guys want to add screenshots or attachments, just send the email directly to the Made to Manage support. You don't need to fill out a ticket because there is no place currently for an attachment at the moment.
Correct.
I do have a question that popped up, and I believe this one's going to be for Susan. It says, for tariffs, one of their requirements is going to be showing the country of origin for smelting and casting for their metal. what might be the best way to go about it so that it is included on our shipper related to the separate line items?
So ultimately, I know it all depends upon how buried it is. If it's built in to the product or not, there's all kinds of criteria, but we can always add where at the shipper level or the sales order line item level, where they can choose what the country of origin is. And so that's an easy way to do that. And then it can be put on the printed documents. If it's something like job level that you would have to set it, then we could do that as well. And what you can always do, if the manufacturing defaults to the majority one specific country, we could always default to that country. Though there are obviously going to be some caveats there, but yeah, we could easily take care of that.
Okay. You guys keep your questions rolling on in. If you have any more, we can stay on for a few more minutes, see if you guys have any. And while we're waiting, I want to say thank you to everyone who is participating today, especially our consultants who took time to create all of their stuff for their sessions. And thank you to Jimmy and Jim as well. And thank you to all of our customers who make everything possible for us.
Well, thanks, everybody. I know that we still have over 25 attendees still on here. So if there's anything else people want, please let us know. We're going to do another one hopefully in March or April, and we need ideas from all of you of what you'd like to see. We try to do tips and tricks. We try to do other things. So we're thinking about bringing maybe some of the third-party vendors in so they can at least show you some of their products. And if you'd like to see some of those, then we do that for at least give them a 15-minute to half-hour slot so they can actually show some of the products. So please let us know what you'd like to see. Thanks, everyone.
And to the person that asked, yes, we can see about arranging a team meeting so you can screen share about your receivers and invoices question.
Perfect.
So thank you, everyone. I hope this was informative to everyone. If you have any questions, please, you can reach out to me. You can reach out to Jim Cooey. You can reach out to our consultants as well. But thank you, everyone, and have a great rest of your day.
Have a great day, everybody. Thank you. Thanks, team.